Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, blow the dust off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and with me today is Tony Pasculi.
Happy to be here, Tom.
And today we are talking about one of my favorites, well, what I thought was one of my favorites, I'll have to qualify that in a minute, Flowers for Algernon.
Flowers for Algernon. So I'm going to say this is possibly my favorite science fiction story of all time. It's certainly up there. It's the one I would recommend to anybody who's like, science fiction, should I get into it? Where did I start? Start with Flowers for Algernon. But let's hear your qualification for what's going on.
Yeah, well, so I have made reference to Flowers for Algernon in a couple of recent episodes. When we did Reeve the Just, there was a story that reminded me of it. And when we did the Ted Chiang collection, there was a story that
about superintelligence.
That reminded me of it. So I thought, well, we should go back and revisit it. And what I didn't know until the last few weeks is that it exists in two forms. Mm-hmm. The original short story, which was published, I think, in 1936, then it was published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. It was unquestionably a short story, which he later re-released as a novel. And then as I started digging around, I got even more confused because people would throw the terms like novelette and novella, and I was starting to wonder if there were three iterations. So if you're suffering this confusion, dear listener, there are two versions. There's the original short story, which we are going to label as short story, and there's a novel, which I had never read before, it turns out. Yeah, so the short story, absolutely, I'm with you. It's one of the finest short stories ever written. The novel, I just can't call a favorite because this is the first time I've ever read it. And it's stunning to me what a different experience it is.
It really is. It was surprising. Okay, so now, before I give you my take on it, having read this for the first time, what did you like it? Is it going to be a favorite?
So the novel is divided into three parts. And for the entirety of the first part, it is simply the short story with extra words thrown in. And I really got tired of it. I was like, well, this brings nothing to the table. Why did he even bother? And he does things like in the book, in the novel, he refers to the Beekman School for Retarded Adults. In the short story, it was simply the Beekman School. We, the audience, had to intuit what that meant. And he uses that title for retarded adults 3 or 4 times in a row in one chapter to make darn sure we get the point. So I was like, this is all he did? And then part 2 gets there. And we start actually getting to experience Charlie Gordon, is that his name?
Yes, Charlie Gordon. Charlie
Gordon as a functioning adult. And this is where the difference lies. In the short story, we get hints, right? We see kind of the tangential results of the fact that he becomes intelligent. He becomes hyper-intelligent. Then he realizes the scenario, and then we watch him regress. But we don't get to spend any time with him anywhere along the ride. And it's sad and it's poignant. In this, we were along for the ride. And we get to be with Charlie as he evolves. We get to learn to dislike Charlie because he's really a dislikable character as an adult. And then, I don't think he actually ever redeems himself. I think by the time he goes back to his earlier state, he's still an unlikable character. So it's just a fundamentally different experience, and I take very different things away from the two of them.
Interesting. You reread the short story also?
I reread the short story before picking up the novel.
Before picking up the novel. I
agonized about which order to do it in.
Yeah.
I decided short story first and then novel. I followed the publication order.
I think that may have colored your experience significantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went into it. You took it the other way.
I went the other way. And now, obviously, I've read the short story before multiple times, but it's probably been 10 years or maybe 20. So I came to the novel just kind of like, okay, let's see what this is. And I knew it's just going to be a short story, but longer. But what are we going to get with that additional length? Nothing great, in my opinion. We get a lot more of Charlie. We get the short story is told entirely in first-person POV through the device of progress reports, journal entries, basically. And in the novel, we get the progress reports early on, and then we shift into third-person POV, and we get sort of these, I think it's third person. Yes, Charlie stands clutching, It's third person.
We can get into that little subplot there.
Yeah.
But go on.
But we abandon the device of the progress reports to see sort of more cinematic scenes of him interacting in the world with people, not just everything filtered through his mind. Yeah. The progress reports are his distillation of what he's experiencing. In the novel, we get to sort of look at him at more of a remove and see how he is in the world. So it's a very different perspective that we don't get in the short story. But to me, that not only didn't add, it subtracted from the impact. Yeah. So two things to me subtract from the impact. One is that outside POV, and the other, well, also now that you mentioned it, he's kind of a jerk in the novel.
He's very much a jerk. He is the smarter he gets, the more unlikable a character he becomes. Yeah. And he has the self-recognition to see that he's becoming unlikable, and even to berate himself for becoming unlikable, and then the course of action he takes is to become even more unlikable.
Yeah. Now, in the short story, that doesn't happen, or at least I don't get that.
In the short story, he gets ostracized because he gets smart, and all the people who used to take advantage of him are embarrassed to be around him. Yeah. And the doctors running the experiment are forced to realize the fact that he's smarter and better than they are, and none of them take it well. But he doesn't ever stop being a likable, hopeful character.
Yeah.
He doesn't really understand what's going on around him, and he just reacts to the fact that he's going to be alone, and he keeps going forward.
Yeah, he's on a date with his teacher, Miss Kinnian or Kinnison or whatever her name is, and he tries to talk to her about some mathematically sophisticated patterns discovered in a concerto, and she just can't even begin to understand him. But he's not angry about it. He's just frustrated and disappointed that he's lost this ability to communicate with someone who's no longer at his level. He's so far above that he's removed himself. And that just makes him sad and frustrated, not angry.
Yep.
It's his whole journey is very tragic. But the other thing about the short story is that we get that journey mostly from his POV and compressed. And I think the tragedy hits a lot harder.
Well, it's an afternoon read, and it's a gut punch.
Yes, yeah.
And the novel is not an afternoon read, and
it's not a gut punch.
It's not a gut punch. You lose sympathy for Charlie through 2/3 of the book, and by the time the gut punch gets around, you're kind of like, well, that is too bad.
Yeah, yeah, but you're not like, oh, it's a shame this procedure wasn't permanent in effect. You're like, yeah, too bad.
Now you talked about in the novel, the conceit is still everything we're reading comes from Charlie's reflections and his writing. But he slips into this thing where he sees himself in a third-person view, and particularly when he's recovering memories of being younger. And then he gets on this other subplot where retarded Charlie is hiding in his subconscious, waiting for its time to return. And this actually interferes with his romantic life with Miss Kinnian. You had that right, Kinnian, yeah. Because Charlie is watching, right? And this just became annoying to me, this idea that the memory, that it's actually a hidden persona waiting to be, it's been replaced and it's waiting to come back.
Yeah, I did not care for that.
Yeah.
And it undermines the tragedy, because then he's an imposter.
Yep.
Yeah, he's someone else living in Charlie's body who's taken over from Charlie, which is how he feels about it.
Yeah, well, he even talks about that. He thought about suicide, and he's like, well, no, I don't want to do that because I need to leave the body for Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just weird.
Yeah, not effective. This whole thing made me think, hey, Daniel Keyes, someone approached him and said, there's some money for you in turning this into a book that we can sell. Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to make any money on the short story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I don't know that I've seen the movie. They did make a movie, and I don't know which one the movie's based on, but the movie has the bakery in it rather than the factory.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that it came from the...
Yeah.
So, dear listener, if you're wondering which version you've read, if Charlie worked in a factory, you've read the short story. If Charlie worked in a bakery and there's lots of time spent doing scenery in the bakery, you've read the novel.
Yeah. So you mentioned there's a couple of versions of this. So there's 3 with the movie, but also the book we read, the book we were able to find, is called Flowers for Algernon Student Edition. That's a mystery to me, because there's no other edition out there that's available for purchase. So I wonder if the student edition is different from some other edition of the novel that exists but is no longer in print.
I've not been able to find any reference to additional editions. I said 1936, didn't I? I had that on my mind because we just finished talking about Contact in the 1936 Olympics. I don't think that's right, actually. I think it was published in the 1950s, and then the novel was published in the 1960s.
That sounds more likely.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Usually I highlight the copyright because it's always an interesting piece of information, but I did not for this one, so I don't know. Oh, here we go. Copyright 1966, 1959, and then renewed in 1994 and 1987. So I'm assuming the short story was 1959, the original novel 1966, and the student edition in 1994, and who knows what happened in 1987.
Yeah. I don't know what makes this a student edition, because it's not like there's a prologue or an afterword or study questions appended to the end of chapters.
If I had to guess, I would say that there was either a sex scene that got trimmed out or some profanity. Yeah, when Charlie gets smart and he starts, yeah.
Right. So anyway, there are neat things in the novel, don't get me wrong. And like I say, we get to spend so much more time in Charlie's head. And we kind of get a more direct look at his life, although some of it's, or a good portion of that, is this weird third-person introspection thing. Charlie, in the novel, for his entire life, is surrounded by some of the shittiest examples of humanity you can imagine. God, these are all awful people. I can't believe he grew up not to be violent and hateful. He's awful, or they're awful. His mother, his father, the doctor. The only person who's not outright awful in this book is his teacher at the Beckman College.
I think his coworkers at the bakery/factory redeem themselves. They treat him very badly when he's dumb. But then when he becomes smart, and they treat him even worse. But then when he becomes dumb again, they welcome him. And someone else makes fun of him for doing something, and they rally behind him and defend him. And they say, do not mess with Charlie. So that I thought was nice. It was a nice arc for those characters. The mom, however, is horrible. And she is only in the novel, and she is a good reason to not read the novel.
She is a good reason not to read the novel. That's a good way to frame it. She is just, and again, these are characters in a novel. None of them are believable as real people. It's just hard to wrap your head around somebody being that consistently god-awful.
Yeah.
Especially to someone so helpless.
Yes. Especially to your child.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Here's just a tangent. It has nothing to do with anything other than the time when this was written. He checks into a hotel. He's a block from Times Square in New York. All the things I've read about it: Gotham, the melting pot, Baghdad on the Hudson. So
I remember that phrase.
Yeah. So he's excited about New York because it's as bright a spot as Baghdad. It just happens to be local in New York. Yeah, it's accessible. It's like saying that New York is the Paris of whatever, the East Coast. Yeah, and Baghdad hasn't been Baghdad in so long. It's not even in my memory of Baghdad being a great place to be. Beirut was in my living memory, sort of the Paris of the Middle East. But Baghdad, no, that's crazy. That's just how the world has changed. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I highlighted here, morons. Just as a reminder to me, and I didn't actually get around to doing this, but moron is just sort of a slur now. But once upon a time, moron and idiot were well-defined terms.
Yeah, they were diagnoses for how retarded a person was.
Exactly.
And they corresponded to IQ ranges.
Yes.
I think imbecile was on that list as well.
Yeah, I think imbecile is like 60, barely functional. And then moron is, no, idiot was, I don't know which is that.
Yeah, but that was ranking, and it had meaning.
Yeah. And now they all just mean stupid.
Yeah.
And you just can't say
all
them.
things you don't say in polite company.
Yeah.
Now they change, if I remember right, they actually in the short story, his IQ was in the 60s. And in the
68.
novel, his IQ was in the 70s. They gave him a little bit of extra brain power to start in the novel.
They also trimmed off his top end, I believe, in the novel. What does he go up to, like 160 something in the?
Maybe 178, I seem to remember.
Yeah. And in the short story, it's 200,
Yeah.
which is insane, which is just a number he must have pulled out of the air because, yeah. Okay, here it is. So morons were the most capable with an IQ of 50 to 70. Oh my goodness. So he barely qualifies as a moron, followed by imbeciles, IQ 25 to 50, followed by idiots, IQ 0 to 25. Mental age under 2 years if you're an idiot.
Yep. So these were diagnoses, these words we toss around, we bandy around casually with friends, because we would never use such a word in unpolite company.
No. And here we're not using it, we're discussing it.
We're acknowledging it exists
Yeah.
and that it used to have a place in highly educated society.
And I just said that an IQ of 200 was outrageous, but now I'm thinking Marilyn Vassavant is the person with the highest tested IQ of anybody. 186? 186. I thought it was higher than that. Okay.
Well, so this is in the middle of the book. He's writing about his failing attempt to have a romance with his former teacher. And he says, I am just as far away from Alice with an IQ of 185 as I was when I had an IQ of 70. And this time, we both know it.
Yeah.
So you get these little heartbreaking moments in the novel that weren't in the book, which doesn't, I mean, they tug at the heartstrings, but then he turns around and he's an asshole for no reason other than the fact that he's smart. And you're like, oh, yeah, you have unbought that sympathy.
So I thought the idea that not being able to communicate was interesting. This is something that I think I just read this in a Heinlein novel where they talk about officers and the men who they lead. And they said you can't have an IQ difference of more than 30 points between the officers and the men they're leading because they will not be able to communicate effectively. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, here's another source that says Marilyn Vassavant had an IQ score of 228. But then that was sort of thought to be not an accurate score. She tested with a mental age of nearly 23 despite being only 10. And it's interesting that Marilyn Vassavant, the smartest, the person with the highest IQ ever recorded and the only Guinness World Record holder for IQ, never did anything particularly interesting. She was an advice columnist, for the paper. She just was very normal by all accounts, didn't revolutionize quantum gravity or become a billionaire or just, she's like, I'm just smart, but that's just like a thing on the side. It's like a perk, a bonus. I don't know. She did, however, she talked about the Monty Hall problem. Are you familiar with this?
That whole, should I change my guess?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which statistically the answer seems to be yes.
Yes. So she talked about this. She answered the question correctly. And it's famous mostly for the number of otherwise highly qualified physicists and mathematicians who wrote in to tell her she was an idiot. They're like, no, I'm a college professor and I can tell you you're just wrong. The odds are this, this, and this. And she goes, nope. And she spelled it out again and again. It generated so much controversy.
Yep.
And she was right. She was right the whole time. Yeah. So I guess it was good for that. Anyway, yeah. So having a high IQ, overrated. Don't do it. If someone offers you super intelligence, turn it down.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of examples now that it just hasn't panned out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not take very many notes on this, and I don't have the notes that I took on the short story because it was on a PDF and it's on a different reader. The short story reaffirmed its standing as one of the greatest short stories I've ever read, and it's still a gut punch after all these years.
It really is. Yeah. All right. I highlighted one passage just because I thought it was clever. He's talking about he's going to this therapist, and he says to his therapist, you ought to have this couch designed like a barber's chair. Then when you want free association, you can stretch your patient out the way a barber does to lather up his customer. When the 50 minutes are up, you could tilt the chair forward again and hand him a mirror to see what he looks like on the outside after you've shaved his ego. I thought that was wonderful. Yeah. But that's not much. That's the one highlight in the book for me. Yeah. Stick to the short story. It's wonderful. It's one of the best for a reason. Won a Hugo. The novel won a Nebula Award, which is surprising to me. Yeah.
Maybe it was slim pickings that year.
Maybe it was. Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a bad novel. It does not, I don't know, if I had never read the short story and the novel was my only interaction with this idea, I'm sure I would feel better about it, but...
Yeah. Okay. So this is my wife's favorite novel.
Really?
Yes.
So has she read the short story?
She has not read the short story.
All right. So well, we have to do this experiment now. In the name of science, she has to read the short story.
I don't know if I want to destroy her illusions. Also, I think she read the novel in Russian, which may make a difference. Yeah, so, all right. I don't have anything else on this, do you?
I don't have anything else either. So what's up next?
What's up next? Oh, as we hinted at in a previous episode, we're going to be reading Stranger in a Strange Land next by Robert Heinlein.
It's about time.
It's about time, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.